Welcome to the Heat versus the World podcast. And now, stand up and make some noise for your host, Joel Jacob.
Hey, what's going on, y'all? Welcome back to another episode of the Heat vs. the World podcast. As always, I'm your boy Joel, and today we got a great episode for y'all. With us today, we got George, Cheyenne, and Deem, and we coming off of a Heat win, so you know we feeling lit right now. You also got the fact that the trade deadline is coming soon, so we got some moves that we're going to see as well. Overall, I feel good right now, but in case y'all missed it, last night the Heat did beat Cleveland. And I'm not going to lie, I was feeling nervous about this game because in case y'all didn't see it, it was kind of up and down for a bit. You know, to start the game off, the Heat were looking pretty bad. It was basically looking like kind of like a replay of what we saw in that Hornets game where we were just seeing trash basketball. But Miami picked it up late in that first quarter, and after that, it seemed like a pretty close game. Miami had a great second quarter, but then come to third, things weren't looking right. But then Miami closed it out in the fourth. And overall, it was just a good game to see, you know, especially after that terrible game against Charlotte, especially after we had that not solid winning streak before that. But overall, this is the Miami Heat we're talking about, and we know how much of a roller coaster this team is. But it's just kind of a great thing to see overall, to know that we're now continuing to beat these good teams. And it makes you wonder, you know, what potential this team truly has when everyone is healthy, when everyone is capable of doing what we know they're able to do. And, you know, I think another thing is not only that, but once we make those moves in the deadline, but that's going to be another topic that we'll focus on later. But overall, like, y'all look at this team and y'all see the wins that they're getting. And, you know, obviously it comes with the ups and downs, the one down being, as I mentioned earlier, that loss against Charlotte. But, you know, we'll learn to live from that. Like, I just want to know, like, what's y'all thoughts about this team? And what do you think, what do you just make of it all together, especially as we near this trade deadline? We'll start off with you, George.
I mean, the season together has been a mixture of emotions. It started off extremely poorly. We had some high expectations for this team. Walking into the season, we walked out of a off season that was it's definitely quiet. I wouldn't say irregularly quiet because we had the exact same one just a couple of years ago, but we definitely had our doubts moving in, and they proved the doubts correct, which was it's just a sad occurrence. We don't want to see this team lose at any point in time, but seeing players take step forwards a little bit as well and trying to make it work with what we've got now has led to some more a bit more impressive victories as well. We've versed some teams at some bad times for them, missing out on their stars as well. You know, we had that game against the Pelicans. We haven't really versed them healthy before. That we got the win there. I'm just looking more recently as well. The game against the Celtics was impressive, but the most impressive win so far for me was definitely the Cleveland game that had just passed. Seeing some really, you know, good trends moving up as well. Caleb played well. I'm still not comfortable with him at the 4th spot, but he played well. Bam's just doing Bam things. He's the story of the season for us, for sure. Jimmy was doing Jimmy things, so it's all good to see there. The problems with this team lies in its shooting and its physicality, its effort. The shooting has just been the most abysmal thing I've seen from a Heat roster in so long. We're 27th in the league in 26th in the league in offense, in total as well, points per game. That's considering our field goal percentage as well. Our defense, on the other hand, more recently has taken a turn for the better. We're the 4th best defense in the NBA overall, and if you look more closely at the last 20 or so games, I think we're second, only behind the Cleveland Cavaliers. So seeing us take that leap forward defensively is really it's good to see, because earlier in the season we saw poor rotations, we saw some really lackluster play, but that came from all the personnel as well. Playing Dwayne Dedman, who's known as one of the worst defensive big men in the entire competition, seeing him play meaningful minutes really hurt us. Duncan Robinson being out helped as well. I'm sorry to say, Duncan, but your time is up. So good trends for the Heat. Hopefully that's backed up with some some good moves as well. Will it lead to a championship this year? I don't know. I think it's unlikely. But just to see this team move in a better direction would be better.
Right. I couldn't agree anymore. But, when you say unlikely, man, I don't know, man. We tweeted this on the Heat versus the World Twitter account. Was it yesterday? I don't remember, but we tweeted it not too long ago, man. The energy is hopefully about to shift. So I don't know. Maybe we could pull the Celtics and this time maybe win the chip. I'm still gonna ride with that hope until I see what happens at the deadline. So I ain't gonna give up just yet. So I won't say unlikely until I see what we do at the deadline. So my final verdict for that specifically is still unknown until February 9th. But how about you, Dean?
Well, I'm gonna say, instead of just saying the last few games for the Heat, this whole last month of January, the Heat have been playing great. I won't say great basketball, but they've been playing better than I expected and better, previous months in the season. They beat the Bucks twice. They've been a couple shorthanded. They've been shorthanded, but and they beat Boston, even though they were shorthanded. But also, like this team has been struggling tremendously on offense, and it hasn't gotten better. Last night game against Cleveland, once again, it showed, but they pulled it out. You got a lot of good minutes from Tyler in the second half. He showed up. Kyle Lowry also showed up in the second half, scoring only 6 points. But it is what it is with Kyle Lowry and this team. The offensive end has to get better. It has to. If you expect to win a championship this season, which I don't think is possible, you have to get better in the offense. This is the worst offense of team in the NBA, and they rank 27. But who cares about them other three teams, because they are already tanking teams. Miami has to get better on the offensive side of the ball, and I don't know if there's a trade out there that's going to help this team, but hopefully it is. Hopefully, it's somebody out there that can help this team on the offensive side of the ball.
Right. And let's see, Cheyenne, you?
Overall, I agree with Joel that I think it's looking up. I just tried to check our last 15 games. We won 10 out of 15, and to me that is impressive. So that's like the whole month of January. We had 10 wins, 5 losses. So, and then our losses were, of course, like random teams that, it was a good matchup, but low key we shouldn't have lost. Honestly, I don't know about winning the chip at this point. Like you said, that'll be for February to decide. But I'm definitely impressed, and I'm looking forward to seeing if we'll be able to stay above the 500 line and maybe make it into top 5, top 4.
I agree with that. And let's see, we got Kay, the homie, jumping in as well. What's on your mind, man?
Well.
Get him, Kay.
Who sounds unshocked? Me. I mean, I think this is what I've been saying all year, man. It surprises me that us as Miami Heat fans, the great majority of us, start to go bonkers and lose our absolute in October, in November, in December. Like, when the guys aren't playing, when they aren't connected, when they aren't playing Miami Heat ball, how can you judge them as a Miami Heat squad? I told y'all, hang out. This is what the Miami Heat do. They don't win games by making shots. They don't win games by being cute. They win games by shutting people the hell down. And that's what they do once they get connected. Y'all sound shocked. Why y'all shocked? It takes time to make a good gumbo. You don't get good gumbo in 2 days. It takes time. So my thing is this. The Miami Heat have never been a team that have overwhelmed you offensively. They've always been a team that they make enough shots, and if the threes are going, then they blow you out. But they're going to win on the defensive side of things, and that means the games aren't ever going to be pretty, which, unless you're talking big 3 era, sometimes the Miami Heat have never really won pretty. This is how they've done it. Grit, intensity, making tough shots inside the 3-point line more than often. And when you're talking Jimmy Butler, you're talking about a guy who can get his off anytime he want to. I mean, he did some stuff to Dean Wade last night that made me want to call the police. You hear me? I mean, it's just one of those situations where, you know, you see everything that's being said and you hear it all. And it's not really any of that. And I mean, of course, you know, we got my guy George who want to bring up Duncan, who want to bring up Dedmon. And I mean, look, I'm not here to argue that I don't care the Heat winning, but it ain't got nothing to do with none of that. They all finally decided to play together. That's the problem. I mean, that was the issue. They played together, consistently, connected, more fluidly every night. That's what they're doing. And that shows up on the defensive end first. If you're missing rotations, if you're constantly fouling guys, if you're looking at the ref instead of looking at your own feet to see where they are, then you're not in the game. And that's what the Miami Heat were doing more often than they weren't in the early part of the season before they just went on, you know, this last little stretch where you mentioned, I think like you said, they like 10-5, 12-5, something like that. That has coincided with consistent health, consistent connectivity, consistently getting down on the side of the ball that makes the Miami Heat. And, you know, once it all comes together, they can beat anybody because in the playoffs, it's about being able to get stops when things slow down. And everybody wants to mention that the Miami Heat haven't beat anybody fully healthy. Well, I mean, doesn't that work both ways? Because I like to add that if you include the fact of Jimmy Butler actually being in the game, the Boston Celtics are 1-2 against the Heat this year. I mean, they beat us in the second game of the season, and then they won the first game without Jimmy Butler. But in the 2 games since, they've lost. Just a little, you know, tidbits here and there.
They also didn't have Marcus Smart and Jaylen Brown, but that's neither here nor there.
I mean, you know, I agree with you.
Okay, so let me clap back. So they got Brogdon and Derek White, and they still talking about adding guys and Robert Williams and Al Horford.
You know why they continue about adding guys? Because that's how you win in today's NBA.
But they haven't though, bro. So explain that.
But and so have in Miami. But I just want to ask you this question right here, Kay. Do you think in today's NBA, in 2023, that the Miami can win the championship by gritting and grinding their way through the playoffs?
I think that in 2 of Jimmy Butler's 3 years, they've had just as good a shot as anybody else. They went to the finals in his first year, and if the refs don't spot Boston 2 games last year, then they beat them and likely beat Golden State. So absolutely, it's the same thing they've done his entire tenure. Why change now?
Because the NBA has changed.
But people been telling me that the NBA's changed for 5 years, bro. Like just because the NBA changed don't mean the Heat have to.
Wait. Have you've been watching basketball for a long time? I mean, you understand the game like in a great shape. You don't think the NBA has changed in the past 5 years, and Miami Heat have not changed with the NBA? Yes, we have been, you know, right up there in the mix since the Jimmy Butler era and having the best chance of winning the championship, but we have not reached that goal yet. So you don't think that we need to make changes in order to win that championship? Because I don't personally think that gritting and grinding your way through is going to help win the championship. I think last year the reason why we didn't beat Boston and the reason why we didn't play Golden State in the finals is because we didn't have that second score, that go-to option, that second scorer. That's where we was limited last year, and it's showing the same thing this year.
Go ahead, George.
Let me add to that as well. Those are great words, Deem. I'm severely impressed that you brought up half of the shit I was going to bring up as well. I want to talk about the fact that, yeah, you know, when Jimmy's in, the Celtics are 1-2 against us. It's a good matchup. It's always going to be a good matchup. The problem is they're first in the East because they walked into the offseason with a vision to really improve on that team. And that's why they're first in the East, and that's why they're favorites to win the ring, coming out of favorites to come out of the East, because they made the right changes. They adapted. The Heat have not adapted, and that's been the number one problem with this team. Is we play consistently when the team's fresh, when it's just come out, but the team hasn't changed in 3-4 years. Now you've got players struggling to gel well with each other, and more recently it's been going a lot better. And that comes to the fact that we versed the Bucks twice without Giannis, and we destroyed them. Of course, we're going to destroy them when they're missing the most important player on their team. We versed the Hawks. We lost to them when they were healthy. We beat the Pelicans without Zion, without Brandon Ingram. We lost to the Mavericks when they were healthy. These aren't good trends. The wins are coming more recently from teams like this. The Celtics without Jaylen Brown. We finally beat the Magic. A team that we should have beaten. We lost to the Hornets, a team we should have won. And but the first time I've ever been impressed with the win was yesterday against the Cavs, because they weren't shorthanded. They were only missing Kevin Love, which doesn't make up anything of their offense or defense, in my opinion. It doesn't make up much at all. That was the first time I've looked at that game and said, you know what, we finally beat a team that we deserve to beat. That we walked in that game versing a healthy opponent and came out on top. The problem with this team is the fact that our 3-point shooting is through the floor. It's through the floor. It is the worst it's been in Heat recent history for a very, very long time. Now, why not adjust? We can't adjust if you've got Tyler Hero shooting 31% from three. You can't have that. You can't have that at any time. Victor Oladipo, not really known as a 3-point scorer, 30%. Kyle Lowry, 26%. Jimmy Butler, 21%. We can't have that. Max Strus, 33%. These are supposed to be our scorers, and they're not scoring. So you have to make moves. You have to adapt. Now, when I look at this team and going against, just assuming that every team's healthy walking into the playoffs, the chances of us beating a Bucks or a Celtics or a Brooklyn is low. It's very, very, very low. And it's not going to be about the fact that we want it more. It's the fact it's a talent standpoint. The Celtics are just plain out more talented than us. And their benches are better. We have the worst 30th rated bench in the NBA. And unless you make moves to address, and I'm talking several moves to address that in midseason, I don't see any of that changing.
Okay. Let's take it piece by piece. First of all, I said that when the Miami Heat are shooting, they blow you out. Point blank period. I said that. So I acknowledge that in my spew. I mean, that's what it's been about for the last 3 years. It's
But
3-pointers and defenses. Go ahead.
I'm sorry to cut you off, but let me just say this. We haven't shot the ball well since last playoff. In the last playoff, we haven't shot the ball well since then. And this season is the same thing. So we haven't been shooting the ball well since the playoffs last year. And it transferred into this season. So, I mean,
I acknowledge all of that.
What's your solution, Kay? What's your solution to that problem?
I don't have a solution, but shooters shoot, bro. You guys are saying blow it up in the middle of the season.
No. I am
saying that.
I'm not saying blow it up. I'm saying retool.
I'm saying blow it up.
But that's what I'm saying, though. Like as you mentioned, there isn't a move out there that's going to flip the philosophy or flip the shooting by itself. Yes, if you add a guy, say, I don't want him because I don't think he's a fix and I don't want to give up anything of value to get him. And if they turn down what the Bucks were offering, then there's nothing out there that I'm willing to give up to get him. But say you add a Jay Crowder who can add to your shooting. He isn't going to change your philosophy. He's going to double down on a strength that you hope comes back along with his addition. Yes, I understand that the shooting has been down, but they still managed to have a similar success off of their defense. And I know that you're hoping not to grit and grind if you can help it, but that is a way that the Miami Heat can win because that is the way that they have won. Now, you want your scorers to be more consistent because you guys blitz me with a lot, and I gave you multiple times to talk in between that. So believe me, I got to get my stuff off here because I got to cover it all. But the shooting is what it is. That's just been the Miami Heat over the last 3 years. And when they were playing that Dion, Goran Dragic, that hodgepodge lineup, even before Jimmy Butler, you saw that starting to take shape. We're going to try to run. We're going to try to play good defense, and we're going to get up a bunch of threes. And then as Jimmy Butler came in, that philosophy just got on steroids. Now, in one side of your mouth, George, you're saying Duncan needs to be sitting, Duncan needs to be whatever. But Duncan is still arguably the best shooter on the team. That's the first thing. Second thing, if you could move him, then you do that if you're getting something for him, but you don't give away something to move him, especially when what he does is what you guys are complaining about. So, and then moving over, to Deem's point to that same light, well, if you look at it, Deem, since the end of last season coincides when he gave Max all of the minutes. And that's why I pointed to it earlier. It's like, I'm not saying that you do to Max what you did to Duncan. I'm saying prior to Duncan breaking his finger in half, you should have been going back to him because he's the best shooter on the team. You're paying him $20 million freaking dollars a season. You can't trade him, and Max is struggling. I'm saying that all of these things are sports and they're cyclical, and that you hope they continue to bounce back as we've seen evidence of them doing. Because even if you look in the last few games, guys are making more clutch shots. Guys are rising up and hitting three-pointers more often than not when we need them. Take Gabe Vincent. Take Kyle Lowry, even though he's struggling. He hit momentum shots in the third period yesterday. Take Max Strus, even trying to find his shot again. I'm saying you're seeing those things come back. And if the Miami Heat can stick to their core principles of stopping you and not allowing you to score 100 points, which is what they did to the Cavaliers, which is what they did to the New Orleans Pelicans, only for the second and third times this season. And everybody wants to mention without Brandon Ingram and Zion Wilson. But hell, they beat the hell out of everybody else in the NBA without Zion Wilson and Brandon Ingram. So what's the problem there? My thing is this. If you know who the Miami Heat are, then you understand that, yes, I need that other stuff to come back. I agree with y'all. I need somebody to step up and be more consistent in the playoffs to help Jimmy Butler out like Kyle Lowry was in game 4, game 5. But we also know that the man was spotty, in and out, unhealthy, had did a split, towards growing up, so couldn't give us that. Hey, Tyler. Hey, Bam. We're expecting Bam to be better this year because as I've been asking for 3 years and everybody's been telling me he's okay, somebody need to pass him the ball, he's finally going to do it his darn self because that's what Bam has the capability to do. So I trust that with that defense, with the renewed shooting, with the renewed connectivity on both sides of the ball, which is not only going to help that shooting be easier, but everything else they're doing, I trust that Bam Adebayo is going to be that second guy. I know what Kyle Lowry can do in big moments. I just need him to let it go. And I trust that once the postseason starts, he's going to do that if he's still there. And I trust that Tyler Hero is going to be Tyler Hero. And that may come with some inconsistency. But I just need you to make sure you're giving me 15 a game. Because I know in 2 or 3 or 4 games, you're going to give me 45. I know that. And that's just who the Miami Heat are, and we have to hope that they can be the best versions of themselves because otherwise you are looking at a blow up because we don't have anything of major value to go out and, let's say, secure a OG Anunoby, to, secure a Gary Trent. Not that I want them. I'm just talking about those guys that aren't stars, but they aren't necessarily role players either, if you feel me.
Okay, see, now I was with you, especially at the back end, but when you said renew shooting and by inserting Duncan back in, Duncan has not been shooting the ball well last year or even this season. He shot the ball a little better this season before the injury. Now, it's a reason why Jimmy Butler and those guys wanted to bench Duncan last year in favor of Max. Duncan has not been that sniper, that quote-unquote sniper shooter since he got paid. And I don't see it being renewed. I don't see that happening. Now, you said something about Gary Trent and OG. I just want to make this a really quick point. I think Gary Trent Jr. can help this team out, and I think OG also will tremendously help this team out. Now,
I agree on both of those. I'm not sure I'm willing to give up what it'll take, but I do agree.
I agree with you about the Jay Crowder thing. I don't think he helped this team out in no way or shape. I do not want Jay Crowder. I wouldn't even give up Duncan Robinson for Jay Crowder because I don't see him helping this team in no way or shape. But it's teams. It's a report that
Dean, don't talk crazy. Don't talk crazy.
I'm sorry, George, but it's a report that just came out by Shams that said that the Suns, Pelicans, Pacers are trying to make some moves to get OG. So,
and what that's gonna and if they I mean, not we gotta let Joel take back over at some point here, I guess. But you just gotta imagine if the Suns are the team that walks away with OG, then by some functional mechanism, that's going to include Jay Crowder.
Yes, I agree 100%.
I don't see how that move makes them any better. They've already got Mikal Bridges. They don't really need another defensive-minded wing like that, especially one that doesn't score the three ball at a high enough level.
And this is a Heat podcast, but I'm gonna shoot back at you right there, George. Well, Mikal has shown you the ability to be able to go out and score for you, but he
has.
doesn't do that every game because he's also tasked with guarding the best wing guy. Well, if you bring in an OG who can give you just 3 and D, guard the best wing guy, hit a couple threes, hit the boards for me, maybe that frees up Mikal to be more of an offensive force.
I'm just saying a lot of ifs, and going back to the Heat as well. I understand and I appreciate your undying love for the Miami Heat, and it's shared by me. It's shared by a lot of us.
I say what I see. I just want to say that because you paying me like I'm just speaking.
I'm not paying you as anything.
I just want to make sure
I used to try and rile you up and get you angry about certain stuff. I understand where you're coming from. I do thoroughly. I do, and I love the grit and the tenacity of the Miami Heat. I always have. That's what drew me to the franchise when I was. But 11 years old or whatever. I think it was like maybe younger than that when I started watching the Heat. And I love them so dearly. And that's why I struggle to sit here and not get visibly upset about certain stuff like that. Look, we've already made mistakes in the past, like with the Duncan Robinson contract. We can't go back and redirect those. That's why a lot of people have moved off from that. If I'm looking at the team as it is now, with Kyle Lowry, I'm saying like, I'm sick of waiting and trying, putting my hope into wild cards and stuff like that and not having a bit more of a sure thing. When I look at Tyler Hero and coming into the playoffs as well is what we're all hoping for to have, saying, do we have a healthy Kyle Lowry? And for me personally, I don't think that's going to happen. You've seen him struggle to move up and down the court freely. And that's what's stopping his shot as well. It's the fact that he's not integrating himself in the offense as he should be. Shooting the ball wise, passing the ball, he's still not been that bad. He's still probably medium in that sense. I think he was 83rd in total potential assists and everything like that. He's still passing the ball at a good level. I don't want to sit here and say he's completely useless and garbage and stuff like that, because at the end of the day, he's what we've got to work with.
I'm shocked.
I know.
100%. 100% agree with
you.
I
said, if there's a move out there to get him off the team, I would take it in a heartbeat. At the end of the day, his legs are cooked. He is cooked as a player. But I still think there's some salvageability if you can hold him there as well. Not just to look at, for this playoff-wise, he becomes an expiring deal next year, which becomes even more useful if you're looking at that. But $30 million to do what he's done now is nothing short of pathetic. It's pathetic. It is really pathetic.
2 prongs on this, and then we can move on if you guys like to. Look, man. I don't think I think there's a lot worse than you can do for Kyle Lowry. So my thing isn't just like it with Dwayne Dedmon. It isn't an undying love for them as much as I'm saying, what are you going to be able to move that for and visibly do? If you're just moving it hoping to do better, I don't want that because you're sacrificing too much as far as continuity, chemistry, and what you've seen him be able to do for an unknown situation. Now, if there's something that is even 70% certain, because nothing is 100%. Let's all acknowledge that. But even if there's something 70% certain, sign me up. But that isn't out there. And I think that's what I look at, with a lot of trades, even when you mentioned Duncan Robinson. Like, I didn't want Tyler Hero over Donovan Mitchell because I didn't know what Donovan Mitchell would look like here. But I would have bought into that because that meets that 70% threshold. Not that I'm rehashing that, just bringing that back up to making an example. And then secondly, man, when it comes to Kyle Lowry, I think that a little bit of his problem is associated with Tyler Hero. Now, hear me out here. Tyler Hero is so inconsistent at times that it puts Kyle Lowry in a spot where he doesn't know. Now, maybe he just needs to come out and say, screw all that, I'm going to go for mine. But then that prevents Tyler from possibly going for his. So that's something that I think needs to be worked out. And if Kyle Lowry is every game going to concede to Tyler, then we have to put some of the onus on Tyler there too. Like, you got to be more consistent as the number 3 so that number 4, 5, 6, and 7 know how they need to operate. Because if they just step on your toes and you can't operate, then that's going to be a problem with you. And I mean, I know we, don't want to look at it as like people, in roles and all that. We want to just say, go out there and figure it out. But those are things that we have to consider as well. Because, I mean, if you're saying he's not moving the same, cool. All right, bet. But there are situations where I watch Kyle Lowry pass up a shot that he 100% takes. in prior years to get another guy a look or to get another guy a touch. And that bothers me.
All right. I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry. I didn't know if anyone was gonna add after that. So, man, we only in like one topic, and we already 30 minutes in this thing. That's crazy, man. But at the end of the day, I'm just gonna say it like this before we move on to the next topic. And I'll make it quick. NBA fans, it's time to bring the hoops action back to the palm of your hand with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. This week, new customers can bet $5 and win $200 in free bets instantly. Plus, for a limited time, all new and existing customers can get a no-sweat same-game parlay every day. Go to the DraftKings Sportsbook app today, opt in, and place the same game parlay on any NBA game. And if it doesn't hit, you'll get a free bet back. And the Heat playing the Knicks, and obviously I'm gonna ride with the Heat no matter what, because I'm taking Bam over Randall, I'm taking Jimmy over whoever, and I'm taking Tyler over RJ Barrett. I'm taking the Heat over the Knicks any day. So that's the place that you can put your money on. I strongly believe the Heat will get the job done against New York. And with that being said, download the app now and sign up with code TBPN. And new customers can bet $5 on the NBA and get $200 in free bets instantly. Only at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA, with code TBPN. Minimum age and eligibility restrictions apply, and it is void in Ohio for any of our Ohio people that is listening to this pod right now. Aside from that, that's basically it from my end. And now it's time for this next topic, and it's about none other than the NBA trade deadline. As I said before, the trade deadline is looking kind of big for the Heat because as much as I love this team, I feel like we can all kind of agree on the fact that this team needs to make a trade. All right, like we're always going to believe in the squad, and we'll always hope that they can some way somehow win the championship. However, when you look at this team, no matter how much games they win, I feel like they still need to make a move or two if they want to actually legitimately compete for a championship. So I want to ask you guys, like, what are some trade targets that y'all have in mind for the Heat? What are those moves you feel like the Heat need to make in order to be that championship contending squad that we honestly hope they can be? So let's see. We'll start off with you, Deem.
I don't think, I'm just gonna be quite frankly honest. I don't think it's a player out there available that's going to put this team over the hump into championship contending. But it is a player. It is two players who I do like out there, and one is OG Anunoby, and the other one is Kyle Kuzma. I really like the addition of Kyle Kuzma because I think he can help this team on the offensive end. He can do a lot of unique things that this offense hasn't had since Chris Bosh. But at the fourth position, I'm sorry, since that fourth position, that's my trade target. I'm not a huge fan of John Collins. I'm not a huge fan. I'm not a fan at all of Jay Crowder. If you can, there's not a lot of guys a lot of teams are drooling over on this team. Maybe Tyler Hero, but we all know Miami's not going to trade him. Bam Adebayo, we all know Miami's not going to trade him. And Jimmy Butler, we all know Miami is not going to trade them three guys. I mean, does the team really want a Duncan Robinson who's coming off a half broken finger, who hasn't been shooting the ball great?
I said that at the beginning, bro. That tanked this trade value. It was over once he broke that finger.
I mean, does the team really want a old beat down Kyle Lowry? I just, it's not a lot of, like, we don't have any sexy players that a team would want. So yeah,
we have UD. What are you talking about?
I think I said it. This team has not no, it don't have eye candy. Like, it's not a lot of eye candy on this team that teams will want. So I'm really, I'm not optimistic about the trade deadline, but it is what it is. But the guys who I would like is Kyle Kuzma and OG. They're my top targets.
All right.
Oh,
All right. So, at least you mentioned a couple targets you think the Heat could get. Let's see. How about you, Kay? What's on your mind? What are some targets you think the Heat could go after?
Yeah, man, I'm of that mindset that Dean spoke of. Like, I don't think there's because I don't think there's a target out there, quote unquote, available. You know what I'm saying? I say that because you can always entice guys, but like we're not moving any of the guys that would take the move that to entice anybody, also, as Dean mentioned. So it's like, I don't think there's a move out there that you overexert yourself for to go out there and make, especially not Jay Crowder, as we've always been mentioning. But I'm more of a fringe guy, man, and I do lean in that 4 range because I feel like we have production, and I point back to the Cleveland game last night. A big reason why we won that game was because of Caleb Martin, and what he was able to do on the glass, especially versus the 2 big guys that Cleveland corely goes with. If you look at the Miami Heat rebounding situation, they out-rebounded them 45-39. Bam Adebayo had 11 rebounds, but the only other guy to hit the boards in double digits for the Miami Heat was Caleb Martin with 10. So, he gives you production when he's healthy. And the thing there will be able to keep him healthy, keep him fresh, keep him spry, so he can do that for you more than he can't. So I say you add a guy to that rotation because you're not going to get one of those top-end guys. And even like I said, OG is one of those fringe guys who's not really top-end, and I've always said that. People try to make him a star, but he ain't never been like that. He's one of those fringe guys, not quite a star, not quite a role player. Kyle Kuzma's a star, but I think it's going to cost too much to get him from Washington. So I look at a guy that I've been looking at for a long. There's actually a couple of guys I've been looking at for a long time, man. And we've never been connected to him. There's never been any associated mention, but I just don't know why. When you look at how the Miami Heat are built with Bam Adebayo at the 5, you look at a guy like Dario Saric out there in Phoenix, man, a guy with size. He isn't the most defensively, sound, but he's a guy with size. He's a guy that can help you on the boards. He isn't a stiff. He can shoot the 3, and he can just help you produce, man. I've always liked him, and I've always liked Chimezie Metu out there in Sacramento. Like, they're letting that guy ride, and maybe you guys have heard me mention it. Maybe I've mentioned it here before, but he's another guy. He's athletic. He has size. He can help you on the boards. He's actually a willing defender. He can shoot it enough. I'm just thinking about a 4 guy that can come in and give you depth there, but can also do some of that big stuff that takes some pressure off of Bam while he roams around. A guy that could block a shot or 2 if you just stick him by the rim and say, hey, get that weak side shot, not because you're a great shot blocker, but because you're big. And this last guy, if they do truly have a fire sale in Charlotte, and I've mentioned him several times this year because he's been a double-double machine, and they mentioned it on the broadcast the other day, Sunday, about his resurgence. Now, if you think I'm going to say PJ Washington, you nuts. I like Plum Dog. I like Plumlee.
You know what?
I think Plumlee could play beside Bam.
You know what? I'm not too mad about that. I like that better than your first option. I'm gonna be honest. I like that better.
Well, I was just throwing those out because those are attainable options. 2 second rounds of future protected first. But if we're gonna make a move, I don't think that we'll have enough to get Plumlee, is what I'm saying, and that's why I saved him for last. Because right now, Plumlee's a first round pick. It might be 17 to 30. But you're going to have to give a first round pick to get Plumlee now because he's been really good this year. Double machine.
He hasn't been bad.
And let's see, George, what about you? You got any moves of your own you want to see the Heat make?
I've got plenty, as I have had so much time to sit here and think about and contemplate.
Fire the trade machine up.
There's just so many.
It
makes me so excited. Shout out to Hot Take Harry as well from the basement. He's been the one giving me so many ideas as well. Alex Sheltman as well. They've been fantastic because we've brainstormed about this for months. I'm going to go with a small, a medium, and a large option. Okay? That's what I'm going to go with.
Just like the McDonald's of trades here.
It is beautiful. And we can go supersize even after that as well. With the small option, okay? And it's a simple deal. It works well for both teams. The Miami Heat have made it very clear that they are not willing to dive into the tax for this team. They used to like the blueprint. They've seen flaws in it. They're not about to invest more in a team that they don't believe could really, fight for a championship. They're not about to add that other star player, by diving into the tax. It's just not going to happen. They've made that abundantly clear. The small option for me, would include Kyle Lowry and a heavily protected first-round pick, maybe even 2 seconds if they would allow it, to the Los Angeles Clippers, who have a need for a point guard, for Marcus Morris Sr. and Robert Covington, 2 players whose salary matches perfectly to Kyle Lowry's and are both expiring deals as of next year. They will be, they are perfect, and you can trade those deals. I think they might be expiring this year or next year. I'm not too sure.
George, I like it.
It's beautiful. You know why? Because you get 2 very, very normal contracts that you can move if needed. And also they are expiring as of next year. I've just had to double check that. They're both expiring as of next year. And they're 2 players that I look at and say, you know what? They could walk in and they are SPO type guys. Robert Covington and Marcus Morris both give you offense at a good level, a serviceable level, and both can play the 4, which would allow Caleb Martin to slide back to the backup 3 spot, which he is born and bred to do. He is perfect for that spot. He is an in and out small forward. And I love seeing Caleb minutes, and I love what he did yesterday. But we cannot consistently hope on that. We're not going to see many other 4 or 5 from 3 shooting games from Caleb Martin, even though I would die for that every single game. But I would love it to see him run with that second unit and to get more run. But that deal makes sense for both teams. They get their point guard. We get 2 serviceable stretch 4s sort of thing, maybe 3s and 4s for Spo to really search how he wants to get that rotation going. Now, for the median option, I was looking at players like PJ Washington. I would definitely avoid players like John Collins. We need shooting, and John Collins does not give us that. He's exciting, but he's not a shooter by any stretch of the imagination. PJ Washington, the Plumlee deal, I like that, and that would probably involve salary matching of some sort as well. The Kyle Kuzma one I was looking at, he's a star. He is a star, but Washington as of late have been one of the best teams in the NBA. They really have. They've had one of the best months. They've flown so under the radar. So if they are going to move a guy like that, they've got to be really willing to move off their current project and trajectory with the Porzingis, the Beal, Porzingis, Dinwiddie, and Kyle Kuzma. They've still got good pieces there. Now, the big option is the OG Anunoby trade. I think that would be perfect. He screams heat. He's sick of the cold. Get him out of Toronto. He's so tired of that weather, and he's tired of that team. So is Pascal Siakam. Very, very much, very tired of that team. Now, in terms of asset management, the Heat have a ton of players coming off contracts this year, in players like Gabe Vincent, Max Strus. And if you're not going to pay these guys, which I don't think if I'm being serious, if Max Strus comes up to me and says, I want $11 million a year, I'm telling him to hit the road.
Wait. You wouldn't pay?
No. Max Strus, $11 million? Absolutely not. And nowhere close to it. He had 2 of the worst back-to-back months I've ever seen from a Heat player.
Yeah, I agree. I wouldn't have paid him $11 million before the slump, and it's because he don't consistently go to his second level stuff. I've always put him somewhere in that range of 7 to 9 safely.
I said 7.
Yeah, I think perfect. 7 to 9 safely. But there's chatter out there, and I won't say anything for sake of protecting the privacy of some people I know. But there's chatter that there's a team willing to give him and Gabe what they want. But continue, George. I mean, I want to keep Gabe. If Gabe will take anything 8 or less per, Gabe can stay.
No,
perfect.
Wait.
Perfect.
Would
8 or less. Perfect.
11. Would y'all be willing to pay Gabe 11?
No. I would pay Gabe 11 on the first year, but after that, he's gonna have to meet me. Because Gabe do got potential to be a starter, and I recognize that. And Gabe's 2-way, and he can hit big shots. So that's why I have to meet in the middle there, George. But on average, I want to be right around 8.5 to make him happy. But no, Max can take a hike.
Yeah. I 100% agree with that as well.
And I love Max. This isn't Max slander. I'm just saying we can't afford to pay him that.
That's why
I just want to put that out there. I'm making sure to cover that. Like, no, Max, I just can't pay you that when you're not consistently going to the rim enough.
$11 million.
The quicker that this Miami Heat organization can move away from their undrafted, whatever you want to call it, fetish or whatever it is, it is so annoying. You know why? Because at the end of the day, talent wins championships. Absolutely. Talent does win championships. You look at the last time the Miami Heat won a championship, who were we playing? Chris Bosh, lottery pick, 4th. We had Dwayne Wade. We had LeBron James. We had Ray Allen. These are star.
Mike Miller.
Shane Battier was in the first year.
Keep going, George.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say though, because even if you look at the rest of them, no, it's still a bunch of ragtag guys. But I defer.
No, but these were great contributors, even down to Mario Chalmers.
But we're starting undrafted.
I get that. But okay, let's look at it like this. And I mean, I'm not disagreeing with you because, like, I've always seen it as, you know, the Heat put their core guys out there, then a bunch of guys. But you guys make a point. We're not just talking about undrafted guys here. We are talking about guys that at one time were primetime guys. Yes. I mean, and I see that. I'm looking at them as being minimum guys at the time. So I'm going to concede and say, I'm not right. You're not wrong. I see the point you're putting down there. You do have
Duncan was D3 high school to college, where the hell that was. He was terrible. Like he had the flukiest of years, 2 years, but he was playing fantastic basketball. That's why he got paid. But that's the thing. We have learned since then the very valuable lesson of not overpaying for shooters. It's not the way, it's not the groove, it's not the way we want to get down. It's just, it can't happen. We cannot be falling back into old methods and habits. That's what I was saying with that's why I was so hesitant to make the same mistake on Max Strus, because while he is a good shooter and he has that potential to become a really good shooter, you're not going to pay him that money. So if you're not going to pay him that money, absolutely package him up and send him away at the trade deadline, because you're going to get something back for him. And that's what you preach about K a lot as well. Getting something back that's worth the player. You don't want to give up, Duncan for nothing. You don't want to give up Kyle Lowry for nothing. Sometimes you got to bite the bullet. We did that with Josh McRoberts and Ryan Anderson.
That was hard. Those years were horrible.
They were hard because you look at the salary cap and you see for the next 5 years you're paying $5 million stretched. $20 million stretched.
That's
and
a
it's
fact.
horrible.
And I agree. And I just want to make it sound like I'm not looking at getting $1 for $1. I just don't. If we can get anything 55 cents and above, it's just like for me right now with Duncan and even with Kyle Lowry, like there's no way we would get 50 cents on $1.
Exactly right. And you got to look at the bigger overall picture. You got to look very quickly, Dem. You look at the bigger overall picture as well. Bam Adebayo has come out recently and has really put adamant to the fact that he wants stars on this team. He does. They were asked about the Donovan Mitchell recruitment. He goes, I didn't recruit him to this team. And they asked him about his ability to get players. He goes, if there's players out there that can actively help this team win a championship, he goes, I will always reach my hand out and ask for that. I will always do that. But he has been very upset recently with the trajectory of this team, with the fact that I don't think he likes Kyle Lowry very much. I'm not going to lie. I think there's a lot of players on that team, not named Jimmy Butler, that do not like him.
Those guys got, I wouldn't say a fight or argument, but those guys had some,
But it's a legitimate beef. That's the organization.
They last night going to the bench. I don't know if y'all guys caught that.
Who?
Yeah, I saw it.
I won't say they hate each other or they don't, but I don't think
they want to be on the same team as each other.
That high on Kyle Lowry.
Definitely not.
Yeah,
definitely not.
Okay, now my take. I think they just want to win so bad that he expecting Kyle Lowry to be Kyle Lowry. And to that point, I did see that report that you saw, George. I'm gonna let you get out, Dame. I want to respond to it. I just want to say this real quick. I don't know if I read it that same way. I read that as, okay, I'm getting to the point where I'm getting sick of it. I'm going to start. And there is another point to think of that. Well, why didn't he reach his hand out to Donovan? But anyway, go ahead, Dean. My bad.
No, I just have to say this because everyone's saying they expect Kyle Lowry to be Kyle Lowry. But let's be honest. Who is Kyle Lowry? Let's be honest. Like, who is he?
He's a guy
that guy in Toronto until Kawhi Leonard came. They always flamed out, and he was the leader of the offense, the leader of that team. I was never high on Kyle Lowry. I did not want this guy whatsoever on this team. But here we are. I'm just saying, I don't know why Heat fans expect Kyle Lowry to be the savior, and he was going to be the end-all be-all and get us over that hump, and he has championship pedigree, and he's just this. Like, I just don't understand.
But he was all those things. He was all those things. He had championship pedigree. He was a point guard. We needed a distributor. He could have been that. But injuries and age has gotten the better of him. That's the problem.
And I'm not going to refute anything you said, Dean. Like, even when you look at the DeMar DeRozan years, no, he wasn't the number one option. But he was a guy you could count on, as George mentioned, to be your floor general. He was going to come up, make a miss every game, and take 10 of those transition threes. And though he was only going to make 4 or 5 of them, the fact
playoffs for me, Kay. He flamed out too many. He disappeared too much in the playoffs for me in Toronto. And those
I will say this. I won't go as far as to say he disappeared. Will I say that he stepped up in a lot of those games to be the best player? No, but he wasn't expected to be. And I think that's the thing that I'm saying about here in Miami. No, I'm not disagreeing or refuting anything you're saying, Dave. What you're saying is 100% true. And I just want to make sure I'm laying the foundation of that as I say everything I say. I just think that we're expecting, if you're that same, even if you weren't the best player on that team, the number one option, if you're 80% of that guy that you are in Toronto, with Jimmy Butler being Jimmy Butler, with this Bam Adebayo being this Bam Adebayo, which he started to show us a little last year. You can point to the Brooklyn game. You can point to a couple more games. He just still didn't do it consistently enough until this year. And if Tyler Hero, like I said, is coming in, giving you, that 15 is what I need minimally a night. And I know people think that's low, but 15 go a long way when Jimmy's going to get you 25 and Bam's going to get you 20 and everybody else going to splice it in. Because like I said, there's going to be 3 or 4 games, 2 or 3 minimally where Tyler gets you 45. But what I'm saying is,
I was getting you 45.
Yeah. In the playoffs against Boston a couple years ago, he went stupid. He's had a 3-game stretch this year already where he went for 35, 40, and then almost 50. Right? Am I tripping? Or has Tyler done that already this year?
He did. No, he did that. He did.
Oh, okay. I thought I was tripping. Anyway, so I know what I was saying, Dame. I just want to make sure you was paying attention. Basically, bro, I just think that if we got that Toronto Kyle Lowry where he came up and made the defense play him, his job ain't to be the best player or to be the best scorer. His job is just to make everybody's job easier. And right now, because I don't think that.
I just want
right, and that's what I was about to say. I don't think because he's been enough of himself that he's not doing that. I agree there.
I just want to finish that segment really quickly as well. Just want to finish my segment. That was
absolutely, Joe. Sorry to cut you off.
No, that's all good. It's all good. I'll add on to that and cap that off quickly. The reason why people expect so much from Kyle Lowry is because we paid him to do that. Now that's not a Kyle Lowry problem. That's a front office problem. We look at his stats and we look at what he's done. Yeah, and he's not expected to be the best player on the team, but when you're getting paid $30 million to do something, you better damn well you expect that you should be doing that well. And he's not. That's why people have looked at him and looked at that Tyler contract and said the exact same thing until he was playing really well before the injury. Now, granted, it was against very, 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 very weak opponents. It was OKC, it was Indiana, and it was another team like that without their stars. But that's what people were like. We just want to see the consistent version of it. We want to see him do that against the Brooklyn Nets, against Kyrie Irving, Kevin Durant. We want to see him do that against the Boston Celtics. The large option I was going for as well is the Lauri Markkanen, the team in Utah that's looking to tank. They're looking to not win games. They aren't. Now, given his recent play, he's definitely, expected to be an all-star this year, and it's going to be an extremely high price tag. That's why he's a large option as well. I just want to see this team make the right move and for their future as well. If they want to shed cap, do it properly. If they want to go all in, try it out. Do something for the love of God. Stop sitting there like a squirrel, a dead squirrel in the middle of the road. I don't want this anymore. But we will see what's going to happen with that team.
All right. So, it's nice to see all y'all chiming in with y'all takes. The trade deadline is going to be crazy, and we could talk about it all day, really, but we are going to have our trade deadline special pod next Wednesday, the day before the trade deadline. So trust me, it's going to be a fun one come then. But now we got to quickly walk away from the trade topic and talk about Bam Adebayo, because as this pod is being recorded, tomorrow, February 2nd, NBA on TNT, they're going to come out and they're going to announce who's going to be the NBA All-Star reserves. So with that being said, because we're already deep into this pod, we're going to make it quick. I'm going to give each and every one of y'all 45 seconds, quickly explain why Bam Adebayo should be the All-Star that he definitely deserves to be, and just go from there. So we'll get started right away. Okay, you're up first, man. The minute you start, your time starts now.
I knew you were going to do that. He always hawking me. Tyler Hero outplayed Donovan Mitchell last night, but I'm going to get away from that. Bam Adebayo should be an all-star, two-way supremacy, perennial defensive player of the year. I wrote it a year ago, and I've been saying it for 3 years. When he's consistently aggressive, he's a top 15 to 18 player in the league. So when you're talking about a top 15 to 18 player in the league overall, you're talking about a top 3 defensive player in the league, arguably the best defensive player. Guard everybody, will protect your rim, will stop his mama from getting in the paint if it means winning the game. That guy's an all-star, and if he ain't, throw the whole thing away.
All right. I like that. You still have 17 seconds left. I see you. So how about you, Deem? What's on your mind?
I'm not even going to use my whole 45 seconds on Bam. Yes, Bam should be an all-star because he is one of the best centers in the NBA. He's the top 3 center in the NBA. What I'm going to use my 45 seconds on is this. Tom Brady just retired today. All great things got to come to an end. It's a man that's in the Miami Heat front office who is great, but maybe it's time for him to retire.
Oh my
too,
God.
all great things does have to come to
Joel,
an
you
end.
better stop that
Oh,
man right now. You
Lord.
better stop him, Joel.
Man,
I didn't say
Let
no
him
names,
cook.
though.
Let him cook.
come on, man. Come on. We could have really pushed the Bam agenda right
You
there.
just asked for another 45 minutes. No, I'm joking. Go ahead.
Coma Riley.
All right. You know what? But George, how about you? Your 45 seconds start the minute you start talking.
Bam Adebayo is the perfect player, except for his 3-point shot, which he's working on, by the way. I hope to God he can start shooting them soon. He has taken such a leap this year to become a focal point of the offense, something we didn't think was going to be possible because we've been asking for and begging for it for years. You know, it's in the 3-point shot still isn't there, but he's become a really consistent NBA player, offensive NBA player. He leads the league in points in the paint. He leads the league in points in the paint. He is top 5 in scoring in the fourth quarter. He is an absolute animal on defense. And Nick Claxton, Brook Lopez, he has proven the doubters wrong time and time and time again. He's done it all the time, and I'm so proud of him. He deserves to be an all-star. His stats show it. His impact on the team shows it, and there's no player in the center position in the entire NBA I would take over Bam Adebayo to start a career with. I swear to God, I'm taking him over those guys as well. He is the third.
45 seconds right now. That's it. His 45 seconds is up.
Yo.
I love Bam, but I don't know about if I love him that much.
No, I love him that much. If I'm starting an organization looking for a center, I'm looking at Bam Adebayo.
Yes, sir.
And
Well, that's another podcast, another 45 minutes.
Yeah,
But I want to
that
add
deserves-
that. I also want to add that at least nobody's cooking the books with Bam either.
Listen,
Oh, hell no.
no. I want to add that I said Bam will be an all NBA player this year. He's going to make an all NBA team. So yes,
He
I do
should.
need Bam to make the all-star.
And make sure you tune in this Saturday. Kay and Deem, Biscayne Breakdowns coming back. It's going to come back in a big way. They're going to be arguing. It's going to be beautiful. We're going
Yes, sir.
to expect big things. It's going to be a great show. Joel, wrap us up.
All
This
right,
one got me
y'all.
nervous, man.
All right, y'all. So quickly, we gotta go into this final topic: Heat versus Knicks. We already talked about this earlier in that promo we did. So I just gotta hear it from y'all. What's y'all takes for Heat versus Knicks? What are y'all expectations? We'll start off with you, George.
The Philadelphia 76ers, the Brooklyn Nets, the Nuggets. Actually, not even the Nets, the Celtics. These are all teams I hate, but no team trumps my hate of the New York Knicks. A team with fans so cringe, it'll make you cry. I am so over that team. I hate them. I don't like what they're doing. I like, don't get me wrong. Brunson has been fantastic for them. Great addition. They finally got someone. It took them for 6 years to sign someone that they actually wanted. So it's good to see him. Besides that, we should be destroying them. I hate the Knicks. Okay? Julius Randle, we always hear these chatters every year. It's always the Siakam conversation. It's always the Julius Randle situation when, he's better than Bam in that way. We had a few years ago, has Chris Bosh ever truly been better than Julius Randle? The disrespect from that organization is disgusting. Go out there, Heat, handle your business, destroy them.
I couldn't agree anymore, man, because obviously y'all hear from George, like the Knicks just burned his butter. So, let's go out there and let's get that win.
Don't ever do that again. That was horrid.
Nah, man, I feel like it was a little okay, but let's see. Kay, how about you?
Hey, look, man, I think it's pretty simple. Playoff Jimmy Butler is playoff Jimmy Butler because he's motivated. And I'm not saying we got to see that now, but the worst thing for any other team to see is a motivated Jimmy Butler for any reason. I've said this time and time again for the last 3 years. Jimmy Butler in the Miami Heat or the Boston Celtics is kryptonite. So that type of thing exists there. But outside of them, the worst thing that any other NBA team can see is a motivated Jimmy Butler. And I think that's what it'll be going into the Garden. We need this win. That a team directly below us in the standings last night after they lost to the Lakers and after we beat Cleveland. But I bet you nobody's talking about them losing to the Lakers. I mean, well, they did have LeBron and Anthony Davis in the lineup, but yeah, who's care? Either way, we're going to go in there and handle our business too, man. I definitely see a win, especially off the back of this latest win against Cleveland.
Right. And how about you, Dean?
There's only a few teams that I hate more than the Boston Celtics, and the Knicks are one of them. But I'm actually excited about this game tomorrow against the Knicks. I think the Knicks and the Heat are like neck and neck when it comes to talent wise, but I think coaching wise is not even close. But I'm actually really excited. Tomorrow, the game in the Garden. I expect a big game tomorrow from Bam Adebayo. He's going to lead all players in total points tomorrow night. Mark my words.
I love that. I love it. And, I love how we all on the agenda of screw the Knicks. So I love that. And for me personally, I see another win for the Heat. Yesterday they were able to get an encouraging win over the Cavs, and hopefully they can keep that going by winning this game against Cleveland. And, we'll see what happens in that next game against Milwaukee, because I know it's a 4-game road trip, but we're going to act like that Charlotte game never existed and focus on yesterday's game, tomorrow's game, and the game after that. Like these 3 games specifically, being on the road like this, I know it's a little tough for Miami, but, I have faith in this team, and we'll see what happens. Because then after that Bucks game, they got 4 days of rest, and then, I think 1 day left until the trade deadline, I believe. So they got enough time to see what they got to see, and then get on the phone and make whatever calls that they got to make. But aside from that, that's basically about it. So thank y'all so much for tuning in to today's episode of the Heat vs. the World podcast. Make sure to follow me at JoelKJacob_. Make sure to follow George at XHeatLifer. Make sure to follow K at K_said_K. And make sure to follow Deem at BLDEEM. And you can follow all of us on Twitter. Make sure to follow Heat vs. the World on Twitter as well at HVTW Podcast on all platforms. And make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel as well. Aside from that, that's basically about it. But we got so much projects heading y'all way. We're coming back with the Biscayne breakdown like George mentioned earlier. It's going to be dropping their first episode this Sunday, so I can't wait for that. And we got Culture Shock with a potential project dropping very soon. Y'all heard Cheyenne earlier. Make sure to follow her on Twitter at Cheyenne. And then also we got more projects. I can't come out with it just yet, so I'm going to keep my mouth shut until then. But it's going to be fun. So let's go Heat. Let's see what the Heat does. And it's going to be a fun, next couple of weeks. So let's buckle up, Heat Nation, because I know it's probably going to be nerve-wracking seeing if the Heat do a move or not. But in Pat, we trust. So let's do this. Aside from that, y'all, thank y'all for tuning in to today's episode of the Heat vs. the World podcast. And until next time, hit my music because we out.
Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time with a brand new episode of the Heat vs. the World podcast.